Hey y'all, I'm currently in Salmon, Idaho, on the Salmon River here behind me. I was supposed to go on a hot springs hike this morning, and this wind, it's got to be 50 mile, 60 mile per hour gusts outside, and where I was going, you're gonna fall off if you get a 50 mile per hour wind gust. So I'm just gonna sit here and do this video instead. In the meantime, I'm gonna tell a little story. I was exploring eastern Montana. It was last Saturday, and it was just beautiful out there. I came into a town, very, very small town, about a population of 400 people, called Jordan, Montana. And just wonderful, mostly ranches and ranches. That's about it. So I learned that there was a wedding in town. And I said, well, if you know me, if you know me for 5 minutes, you know that I love to crash weddings. Love it. I can't, for years I've been doing this. So for many years I lived down towards Miami Beach, Florida, in a small beach community called Bal Harbor. And it hosted one of the world's just most extravagant hotels, and it's called the Ritz-Carlton of Bal Harbor. If you're familiar with Ritz-Carlton, you know that that's top shelf. I just happen to live next door. And every Saturday during wedding season, so spring and summertime, I made sure to get dressed up and crash a wedding or two. And I got to be friendly with the people at the hotel as well. They had a nice restaurant and a bar, and I was there quite often. So they would always kind of give me the schedule, and so I would crash weddings like it was going out of style for a long time. If I had to guess, I probably crashed at least 60 weddings in 17 years, at least. That may be a conservative figure. It was every weekend for months at a time, and it was a great time. And I don't do it to be a jerk, and nothing like that. And I'll get into the ins and outs of crashing weddings. Now, my two goals when crashing weddings are, number one, to have a good time, eat, and drink, and be merry. And that's what weddings should be for. Good music and good people, and that's a good time. And you get dressed up, and I've actually brought dates on to weddings, first dates actually. Like, hey, you want to crash a wedding with me? And nobody's ever said no. I'd like to bring somebody with me, just whether it's a friend, whether it's just a first date or something like that. But I always like bringing somebody with me, co-conspirator, if you will. But I've crashed many weddings by myself, at least half of them. So the goal, number one, have a great time, etc. Number two, I've always, and for whatever reason, this is just a thing with me, the wedding isn't crashed until I've had a piece of cake. The actual bride, with a bride and a groom on top there. That's just my own kind of personal rule with crashing weddings. The wedding is not crashed until I have a piece of cake, and then it's crashed. So I'm in Jordan, Montana, and sure enough, there's a wedding there that evening, and it was in the middle of the street in downtown Jordan, and they had a stage with a band and like a beer kiosk, and there was also the inside the saloon right in downtown Jordan. That's where they had the wedding cake and everything else. So I went in there and gobbled some up for sure. But it is, man, what a great wedding this was. It was Mr. and Mrs. McDonald, and they were probably mid to late 20s. I want to say her name was Molly McDonald. I met them later on. I actually met them the day after and confessed to them. I said, listen, I crashed your wedding. If that's all right, I hope that's, and they kind of laughed, and they're like, yeah, that's fine, you know. But it was, I went in the saloon the next day for lunch, and then I headed out from there. But it was, what a wonderful time. People were dancing in the street, and it was lively and fun, and good music, and that was one of this is a fantastic wedding. And I doubt they'll ever see this video. I hope not, but well, yeah, I don't care if they do. If they do, hello. But they had a wonderful wedding reception, and I was so glad to have crashed it. It was wonderful. So back 2005, 2006, in that area there was a movie that came out called Wedding Crashers, and it was Vince Vaughn and the blonde-headed guy. He says "wow" all the time. That guy. I can't remember his name. I'll remember it and I'll put it down here somewhere. But it was an okay movie. But the movie's called Wedding Crashers, and they went around crashing weddings, and as these two kind of bachelor kind of dudes, and yeah, it was funny. But that was their way to pick up women, and they went about it like they had newspaper clippings and of where such a wedding was going to be and everything else, but they did it wrong. That would never work in real life. And I'd been crashing weddings way before this movie came out. So what they did in the movie, they like made themselves, I guess, the center of attention. And that's not good. You can't do that when you crash a wedding. Part of crashing a wedding is not to get caught. Some people react really bad. They'll punch you in the face. Some people kind of laugh it off, but I'm not a gambling dude, so I'm not gonna stick around and see if I'm gonna get punched in the face or welcomed. I'm out of there. So I'm gonna give you my tips on how to properly crash a wedding, and it could be any wedding. I've crashed them all. Tip number 1: don't stand out. Whatever you do, don't stand out. Just like I said with the movie, they stood out. And you know, it's a movie. It's fiction. They in real life, you're going to get caught if you act like that. So you know, your behavior should be appropriate. Don't get drunk. Don't order too much. Don't go around shaking everyone's hand. Just don't do that. Act appropriate. Don't draw too much attention yourself. The less is more, as I always say. Tip number 2: dress for the occasion. Know your weddings before just showing up. Example, a beach wedding. Guys, you're going to wear white with khakis, and ladies, you're going to wear your sundress. But for a more formal occasion, like maybe a Jewish wedding, they're very suits and ties and dressed to the nines. So know what you're crashing before stepping into it. Another good example was here in Jordan last week. I have a suit with me and everything else, just in case I ever come across a formal occasion here on the road. But this was everybody was in t-shirts, but I needed a hat, and everybody was a Stetson. When I tell the entire town wears Stetsons in Jordan, Montana, I can't emphasize that enough. So I dug out my straw hat. It's actually Stetson. I didn't even know it, but it says Stetson on there, and I put that on, and went to the wedding. I walked down the street and went to the wedding, and I probably would have stood out if I didn't have a hat on. Tip number 3: don't engage in too much conversation. Avoid it if you can. It's very important, and this is where people mess up, and they want to be friendly, and bigger weddings are a lot safer. Smaller weddings, not so much. And I've done weddings with 20 people, and I've done weddings with 2,000. So you want to stay away from any kind of conversations, because you never know who you're talking to. They'll ask, "Oh, so how do you know Jim and Mary?" And, "Oh, we went to college." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know Mary went to college." You don't want to, trip over your feet on that one. Avoid conversation. You're there to have a good time, and that we're going to get into that in a second, but you don't want to talk to too many people. You never know who you're talking to. Tip number 4: you want to somehow get into photos, video, you want it documented that you crashed that wedding, Because later on, the bride and groom are going to go home, and it could be a few weeks later, and they're going to be like, who was that person? Hey, Jenny, do you know who this person is? No, Joe, I don't. And they'll figure it out that their wedding got crashed, and you'll never see them again. Well, with any luck, you'll never see them again. So it's always a good time. Try to get in their videos. And I remember there was one wedding there, they had little cameras, and this is going back some years, with the little Polaroid, not Polaroid cameras, but the little cameras where they put them on all the tables, and you can go around and take pictures and everything. And I got into more pictures that way without being a jerk about it. But I wanted them to know that, hey, here's this dude. And I was actually with a friend of mine, and she got into a lot of them too. But we posed with their parents and everything else. No conversation, nothing like that. Just, hey, you know, before the word selfie was a word, we were taking self-photographs. But the videographer come down, and sometimes they'll be like, oh, what do you want to say to Joe and Beth? And like, oh, hey guys, thanks for inviting me. You want it documented somehow. And that's part of the allure of crashing a wedding. That's probably why I told these people down the McDonald's that I crashed their weddings when I saw them the next day. I wanted them to know. Not in a sinister way, nothing like that. I was like, hey, you know, that was a good time, thanks. But yeah, so you want it documented. You just it'll be fun, trust me. Tip number 5. Don't forget your goal. Your goal is to have a great time and eat and drink and even dance. The dance floor is actually the safest place during a wedding. Nobody's going to come out on the dance floor and say, you know, who are you? They'll wait till you get back to the table or something like that. You know, you got free wine, free whiskey, whatever you know you fancy, and some of the best food in the world. Some of these weddings are just fantastic. Have a dance or two, and you know, just enjoy the moment. And this is this couple's happiest day of their life to that point, I'm sure. So, you know, enjoy that with them too. Tip number 6, have an exit plan. If you go solo or with somebody, always have an exit plan. And if you're with somebody, you know, discuss the exit plan beforehand. So, okay, listen, I'm going to give you like a code word, like if I say the word Oklahoma, that means we got to split. I've had this where I've never gotten caught, but several times I've almost gotten caught. And where once again, I'd spill a drink or a piece of food, or I'd cough and fit, or something like that. Oh, let me go to the restroom, and I'm out of there. But have an exit plan. You don't want like an angry groomsman or an angry father-in-law or mother-in-law or grandparents, or there's always a crazy uncle in the crowd somewhere. So be prepared to go at any time. It'd be a moment's notice, but don't ever get caught being off guard. I hope this was informative. I hope this was, don't think bad of me, because I've done this a few times. I've never been married, but if I'm ever to get married, I hope somebody crashes my wedding. It'd be an honor to have somebody crash my wedding, as long as they follow this video, my tips and everything. Like, don't act like a jerk at my wedding, and you'll be just fine. But I don't see this windstorm coming. I don't know if you can see it through the video, but it is just blowing, and I'm not gonna risk climbing up these, and they're pretty steep ledges and everything else where I had to go, so, or where I am gonna go. Hopefully it's better by tomorrow, but instead I'm just gonna put this video together and put it out there, and I don't know. That's about it. Have a wonderful day, y'all, and thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all later.